Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pompously Political. Going over the news, and we're just a little bit pompous about it. As always, I am your fearless co-host, Scott, and I am joined by a flashing, shiny animation.
Hold on.
There's another picture of me. What's going on?
And there we go. There's me right now. Yes, the other fearless co-host Jimmy, which is accompanied by a Star Trek mug for the one of the topics we're talking about today, which is filled with coffee because it is International Coffee Day.
It is.
I am
Did you see
prepared.
my Facebook post about that?
I sure did. Where you got the free coffee?
Yeah, and it
From
cost me
Krispy
part of
Kreme?
my bumper.
Oh, did you have to put a bumper sticker on there for Krispy Kreme?
No, So I got this new car.
Okay.
Saturday, I think it was that we got it. And,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, it was beautiful. It's 2016 Ford Fusion. We leased it, got a great deal on it. Decided I wanted some free coffee today and saw that Krispy Kreme was offering, so I'm like, yeah, screw it. Krispy Kreme's 40 minutes away, but I really want some Krispy Kreme. Didn't want to do the drive-thru.
Who wouldn't?
Made the conscious decision not to go through the drive-thru, which is what cost me. When I parked, apparently I went too far, and by too far, I mean I was even with all the cars around me. There was no sound, there was no scrape, there was no bump that I had hit anything. No indication that anything was wrong at all till I left. Apparently, I had pulled too far over the curb so that my bumper got caught on the curb, and it ripped off part of my bumper. So, 2 days in this fucking car, and now I've got to go get a new bumper. Yay.
Hey, but you got coffee, so
And that's
great.
that doesn't help any because the Krispy Kreme coffee was shit. Absolute shit.
What?
And when the guy went to grab to get me a lid for my coffee that was hot as hell, he dropped the entire thing on the floor into a puddle of what kind of liquid they have on the floor there. And it was the last lids they had in the entire store.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you had a Charlie Brown moment, man. You just one disaster after another. That fucking sucks.
Those donuts are delicious, but they're not that delicious.
Yeah. Oh man. I to be honest, I was more of a Dunkin' Donuts fan than a Krispy Kreme. I don't know what
For
it
donuts
is.
or
Dunkin'
coffee?
for both. Dunkin' Donuts coffee, Dunkin' Donuts donuts. Yeah, just I don't know. I just gravitated. It's kind of like you have McDonald's and you have Burger King people. I was always more of a Burger King person than a McDonald's person. You know?
See, for me, for Krispy Kreme, it's the glazed. You can't beat a Krispy Kreme donut, ever. Now, all the specialty donuts, I would lean towards Dunkin'. But if you want to talk about coffee with either one, they're both crap. I absolutely cannot stand the coffee from either one. The coffee at Krispy Kreme tasted like jet fuel, and the coffee at Dunkin' tastes like coffee-flavored water. So,
Well, yeah. If we're going to throw in other spectrums of coffee here, then I would definitely go to an actual like coffee place. I don't even like Starbucks coffee. We got local.
lately, I can't stand Starbucks either. And it's not like I'm a coffee aficionado or anything. I don't like how it tastes. It's too sweet.
I'll take the moment to kind of plug for Patrick. Patrick was on the show here when we talked about religion, and he actually works at a college. It's called the College Market. They have so good coffee. I swear to God. I wish I could get a mug or one of those things, those thermos mugs that you always see truckers have. I should just fill one of those up and send it to you because it's that good of coffee. So if you're on Facebook,
Ask Kyle, since he's a trucker, to send you one of the trucker mugs.
all right,
And then you
Kyle.
can send the coffee and send it to me. And
Yeah,
then our listeners know how wonderful your coffee is.
Let's do this. Let's do this, Kyle. If you're listening, okay. All right. If you're listening, send the thing to me. I'm not gonna publicize my address on here, but just get with me offline. We'll get this going. It'll be like, I don't know. What are those, like a relay race? You know, sort of thing. You
See how
relay it to-
fast you can get me that coffee. If you can get me the coffee while it's still warm, like with those really good, really insulated thermoses,
Yeah. Boom. And
I'll
let's
donate
see-
$50. If
Yeah.
you get it to me while it's warm, I'll donate $50 to a charity of your choosing.
Ooh, that sounds like a challenge. All right. But yes, College Market. You can find them on Facebook if you type in College Market. Maybe throw in the Pocatello on there. And yeah, that's where Patrick works. So, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to have the business. Because again, it's amazing sandwiches, amazing coffee. Oh, International Coffee Day. So.
Coffee for charity. Indeed.
Woo.
So there was some other joyous news this week. Would you like to take your pick, or would you let me pick?
Ooh, I am dying to talk about this, sir. So if I can kind of steal your thunder a little bit, just a little.
Okay. As long as it's joyous
tiny
news.
Okay, it is absolutely joyous, and that is that they found, drum roll, water on Mars. Bam! We've been talking about this.
Water on Mars.
Yes, liquid. We have to specify that. Liquid water on Mars. Not only liquid water, but running water. It was salt water, mind you, but they found it. There's actual video footage where you can see the water trickling on the surface of Mars. They're thinking that it's coming from some sort of underground aquifer of sorts.
Well, they've speculated for years that there's water under the surface. So there's still liquid water under there.
Right, yeah, because didn't they find ice not too long ago?
I believe so.
Yeah, something like that, and then they had got some sort of thingamajig that had like fossilized bacteria, something like that from Mars. I want to say. I wish I knew more about it, but of course the water on Mars thing blew my mind, for starters, because all this time you have this planet that is, it's in all intents and purposes, it's barren, right? And we've been talking about Martians, from the dawn of Aliens, the broadcast, the War of the Worlds broadcast, and so forth. We've always called them Martians because we've always wanted to have, Mars have life. Well, now we have the possibility with salt water, at least in some form of life, perhaps bacteria, mold, something like that, because you have the presence of water. So, what do you think that means, Scout? What's your beef on this? Your deal?
That's huge. That's absolutely gigantically, enormously huge. Mainly because we can just desalinify water now. What that means is that when you're looking at, and this is purely hypothetical, I am not an astrophysicist, I am not a scientist, I am not a space engineer or anything like that.
We are talking out of our ass, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking out of our ass.
But what I picture that meaning is that one of the key obstacles to long-distance space travel, manned space travel, in any type of, with any intention to colonize another planet or to extend the life of our species beyond this planet, water. There is a limited supply of water. How do you do that? What this means is that it's not as big of a concern. It means that there are other planets that we can travel to that we could basically resupply at. The implications are enormous because now we can colonize Mars without having to worry about supplying water across a 10-year journey, bringing 10 years of supplies of water at a time. And I don't know if you've tasted water that's been held, for 6, 12 months or whatever, that goes stale. It's not good. That wouldn't be good. But to have it there, to know that instead of drilling for oil, we drill for water, to know that we can get water like that, it really increases the prospect of actually colonizing Mars.
Right. Of course, the nerdy side of me, Scott. There's an episode of Doctor Who where they're on Mars. They colonize Mars. And the episode, for you people out there that are Doctor Who fans or Whovians as they like to call themselves, there's an episode called "The Waters of Mars," and they find a water source on Mars and they're growing plants. Come to find out, there's an organism that's in the water that it basically infects them, almost like a zombie virus sort of thing. So that, on that aspect, it's a little terrifying to think that there's water on Mars. But the excited kid person in me that is just, oh man, to think, like you said, desalinating the water and then being able to use it for farming, so forth. Because again, one of the things about space travel is the weight it takes to travel. That's
And
why
water is heavy.
yeah, water is heavy, and so throw that on top of how much rocket fuel it's going to take just to get out of our atmosphere, just to break that escape velocity is what they call it, and then to propel yourself all the way to Mars in a reasonable time frame. So yeah, like it's huge news, at least for the exploration of Mars. So.
I'm excited. It also gives the colonization or the missions to see if we can colonize Mars a directed purpose and a directed landing site, because up to this point it's just been this giant planet that we really don't know that much about, and we're just kind of landing in random spots hoping there's something there. But now we know where to go, like specifically where to go for the best outcome, so we can go and test the water and see if there are zombie bacteria in there or other forms of life. So.
Do you think, okay, now that we know that there is water on Mars, what other planets do you think have water, you think? Because part of the argument of having water is water obviously is hydrogen and oxygen. Space doesn't really have an abundance of oxygen, so planets like Mars, planets like what's another, Mercury, all right, that are really barren, that are really just really dry. Now we can kind of look at it and go, okay, is there water in these other planets now? I don't know. I think it's kind of changed our perception.
Well, you've also got to factor in comets that leave
Right.
trails of ice, which is frozen water. In our own solar system, with all of the planets and everything, so we've got obviously Earth and Mars confirmed, and there's still believed to be water on some of the bigger moons, specifically Callisto and Europa, according to NASA on here. So that's out of probably 20 to 30 planet-like objects in our solar system, obviously not counting the asteroid belt or the comets that are flying around. That's what we'll say a 4 out of 20 possibility.
Right.
So that puts us at 20%, and then you factor in the trillions and quadrillions of planets that are out there. 20% of those have water.
Right.
Suddenly, the prospect for life becomes substantially greater. And the prospect, again, for colonizing, getting off of Earth and actually still being able to survive as a species, because the one thing that we absolutely have to have outside of oxygen is water.
Right. And it's a big sort of thing. We also have some more space news. I'm feeling the space vibe. I just learned this, actually, a couple days ago. But I don't know if you saw the images, the high resolution images that we got of Pluto. Did you see those, man?
Not really, no.
They have some new high-res images. They have one that shows the color of the planet, but also they discovered another moon around Pluto, a sixth moon, I believe is what it is, and it is they named it Styx, which I thought was exciting. So
Very nice.
yeah. So yeah, I just figured I would throw that out there because I like space talk, man. Love it. It's good stuff.
It's fun. I actually had a good conversation with my mom about this stuff today. But that's a topic for another time. So,
For
anyways,
sure.
moving on. Exciting stuff. Moving on to my bit of wonderful news that makes me kind of jump for joy, because it's been a long time coming. It's been called for months, possibly even years. John Boehner will be stepping down as the Speaker of the House.
Oh, whew.
Just let
Big.
that one sink in.
Yeah. Didn't he? Isn't it supposed to be at the end of October that his official resignation? Not only is he going to be, by the way, not only is he going to be stepping down as Speaker of the House, he's resigning from Congress as a whole.
I was not aware of that portion of it.
Yeah. He said he's not only stepping down from the speaker position, but he's stepping down from Congress as a whole. So, yeah, which extremely conservative people were clapping for joy for sure because they don't like Boehner, and then Democrats were applauding because he was leaving as well. It was a weird sort of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Unison, maybe synergy between the two.
Yeah, because he's largely ineffective. I mean, the things that have happened in the House and in Congress, in in the last year since we've been doing this podcast, with people addressing the House that should not be addressing the House, Pope Francis being one of them,
Right.
have happened on his watch. Government shutdowns have happened on his watch, and he's had a large hand in those things, using and manipulating the American people basically to fulfill his political ends. There's a lot more people involved in that, but he's at the top of that list that needed to be removed.
Well, the thing that's that I got out of it is, first of all, John Boehner is, believe it or not, he's an establishment politician. He's more, I wouldn't say he's towards the center, but he's a pragmatist when it comes to policy and the limitations of enacting policy that benefits your political base. We have a lot of freshman representatives, a lot of new people, a lot of fringe conservative candidates that are in the system, like Ted Cruz, that push for things like government shutdowns, like the pending one over Planned Parenthood, that we'll kind of get to in a minute. But so you have this guy who he's largely ineffective because he cannot rein in those more conservative fringe members of his party. Whether he was also a component in the shutdown, I don't know. That's debatable. But it just shows you that even he can't control him. He's like, you know what? I'm done. I can't handle this shit anymore. I'm going to go work on my tan some more and play some golf. That's what he's going to do.
He's part of the problem. Part of that divide within the Republican Party that we've seen with 17 fucking presidential candidates, as well as all these offshoot parties within the Republican Party. He's part of that problem. He's part of that system that is why, even though the Republican Party has such a majority in both houses, they can't get shit accomplished because they can't even unite amongst themselves. And he's center to that problem.
Part of the Speaker of the House is their job is to kind of rein in these groups and get them to pass legislation. He's kind of a big figure, and his inability to do that is certainly makes him involved in this situation. But I would say that his inability to his party's fractured. I think it was fractured before him. It's going to certainly be fractured after. And so I don't know. Have you looked at the list of people that are going to replace him? By the way, I haven't.
No. Let me Google that real quick. Potential John Boehner. It's a weird name to spell.
While you're googling that, I'm just going to show my mug. See the mug there, man? See that? That is the Starship Enterprise, and that's what's going to Mars, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I don't know that the Starship Enterprise is actually
it's
a viable option for travel.
It's gonna happen, Scat. It's gonna happen. We didn't think water on Mars was possible.
So the heavy favorite is House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy from California, and no other Republicans have come forward to challenge him. There's a House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Paul Ryan, but he said that he won't run.
Of course, we're familiar with Paul Ryan.
Sadly, we're familiar with Paul Ryan.
One-time vice presidential candidate, if you will.
Daniel Webster from Florida says he plans to run for speaker, but there's a lot of redistricting problems going on, specifically in my area in Pinellas County and Hillsborough County, um, due to some what's the correct term there? Gerrymandering, where you
Yep.
redraw them to favor yourself. There's a
You have
lot of that going
gerrymandering.
on.
Gerrymandering. You have with redistricting. You can call it redistricting. Um, yeah. So there's some states that have policies in place to kind of deter people trying to gerrymander, but Florida's, I guess, pretty bad at it then.
Yeah, there's one representative in particular who I don't remember his name right now, but he's drawing a lot of heat because they're saying he basically redrew. He was in charge of it, and redrawing it benefited him to get elected back into office. So,
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, if you have the guy who is drawing, if you have him drawing his own district, of course he's going to draw the district in
And
such a way that would favor him.
but how he did it is what I guess is really drawing the controversy, because most of the counties down here are separated on either straight lines or rivers. So the only jagged lines are going to correspond to a body of water of some type, a river, a lake moving around that, or something. But you've got Pinellas County, and then it's like Hernando or Pasco or all around here, and then you have Hillsborough, which has like two straight lines, and then two like squiggly lines that cut through like three other districts, and then two straight lines to join. It makes zero sense at all.
Right.
Like you would look at it and go, "That's what the fuck is
Right.
this?" So
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut case for gerrymandering, and he's probably going to be in some serious trouble for it. But
Right.
it is what it is. So people are going to replace John Boehner. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe, hopefully, maybe not. Hopefully, depending on based on what we're seeing out of the Republican Party right now. Hopefully, they're more effective.
Right.
But maybe it's better that they're not.
I think, yeah, for those people that are thinking that John Boehner stepping down is going to be some momentous change in Congress, no, it's not. The only thing that may benefit and be good that comes of this is that it might avert the actual shutdown that's potentially going to take place because of Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
So that,
Which we'll
that
get
is
to that in a
bonus.
second. Planned Parenthood is a big topic
Right.
going on right now. But another one that we touched on briefly before, Pope Francis addressed Congress. Now, we can talk all day about, oh, he said this and he called for this, and I don't fucking care. Pope Francis does not need to address Congress. He has as much business addressing Congress as the dude from Israel did.
Netanyahu, Bibi.
Yeah, Netanyahu. There is no look. The congressional floor where you're making these speeches, this should not be a tour stop whenever a powerful person comes and visits America. So are we going to put the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia up there next so he can address on what he thinks the United States needs to do? We don't fucking care what you think we need to do. We're going to take care of us and do what we need to do. But it's infuriating not only to have people come in and address our leaders in our house. It can happen. You can address our leaders. You can address them somewhere else. It doesn't need to happen in Congress. But then to also add that this is the most powerful religious figure in the world, and to put him in there, despite the fact that there is a clear separation between church and state, that absolutely should not happen.
And we might want to add on there that John Boehner is the one who invited. Certainly, he invited the Pope. I'm pretty sure he invited Netanyahu as well.
Probably.
To come and speak. Yeah, the Pope. Yeah, I don't like that whole. This is the thing. The Pope surprises me on certain stances, but what I have been trying to stress to people lately is why he has these positions, and that is because the Catholic Church, because of sex scandals, because of just the rise of nuns. Not nuns as in with the weird hats and shit, but nuns as in the non-religious category, the rise in that category, and also just cultural changes have caused the Catholic Church to hemorrhage members so bad that they are forced to change It's kind of like if you are a paper business and paper is now obsolete, are you going to do well? You're not. You're not going to do well because so you need to change your platform. And so that's what this Pope is doing, is he's trying to bring these sort of more progressive type issues, but the bottom line is he's not that progressive. He really isn't. It's smoke and mirrors.
As a quick side note,
Yeah.
e-reader sales declined and paper sales actually increased in this last quarter.
Really? Really?
So print media is not dead. Not yet, at least.
Ah.
Still might be on its way out. Not yet.
It's, you know, but you get the analogy that if you're obsolete, if your ideas or your technology is obsolete, you're going to have a hard time marketing and selling that product. And the Catholic Church, excuse me, I chugged my coffee there in a second, but the Catholic Church, by and large, is obsolete. You don't need...
It's not just the Catholic Church. It's religion as a whole. But what
Correct.
the Catholic Church does is it really perpetuates the stereotypes and the things about religion that get people mad. Like as I mentioned earlier, me and my mom had a quite lengthy discussion earlier today. It was about an hour and a half about religion and all these things. And one of the things that came up was kind of what we're talking about now. With when you look at impediments to progress, impediments to bettering ourselves as a civilization, 99 times out of 100, a central religious figure of the time, going throughout history, is driving the opposition. And when we look in modern times, the opposition to homosexuals, the Catholic Church has a pretty good portion in that. The opposition to condoms in Africa to stop a population that is, I think they're in, are they at epidemic status yet with AIDS?
Oh, they've been at epidemic status for a long time.
So
And
to stop the epidemic, and it's the
mention
Catholic Church that's at the center of this.
To mention that, Pope Francis is also still against contraception. I said that, contraception. He's against gay marriage. He spoke out in favor of Kim Davis's religious liberty, that she has a right to refuse those marriage certificates, or marriage licenses, if you will. He's not progressive, ladies and gentlemen. It's smoke and mirrors. Sure, you can put your hashtag Pope is dope all you want. Doesn't mean that he's he's not like some cool uncle that lets you do whatever you want. He's still following the rules of that organization, which by and large is, again, they're hemorrhaging people. They're hemorrhaging them so bad because for the longest time, the Catholic Church, going back into the Middle Ages and Renaissance times, when they were dominant to the point where they were a political force, they still operate with that sort of mentality that they're supposedly politically relevant, and that's why the Pope even had the gumption to go and speak in front of Congress, because they feel like they're not only a religious platform but also a political platform. So yeah, he's not progressive.
So, well, let's talk about another thing. Is kind of hitting on what you're getting at with he's really trying to bring people back into the fold, I guess. He made a comment specifically to atheists. You don't have to believe in God to go to heaven. Who is that directed at? I don't believe in God. I don't care what you have to say. Your opinion on the afterlife is irrelevant to me. You're not talking to me. I couldn't care less. Who are you talking to? Who is that message for?
Right. It's like, that's like telling somebody that you don't have to love me to fuck me. That's what it's like to me. Like, he's just like, no, it's cool. This can be, we can just be friends with benefits. In reality, he's like, dude, oh God, I love you. And you're like, I could care less. There's no us here, Pope. All right, you're just the quick lay, and the Pope is all about the romantic side. He's trying to light candles and shit. Yeah. Sex with the Pope, ladies and gentlemen. Put that as a hashtag. Hashtag sex with Pope.
Trying to figure out how I can spin that into an episode title, but I think I'm still going to be stuck on Coffee for Charity for right now. All right. Well, sadly, that's the last bit of good news we have for this week. The rest of it's pretty terrible. We'll start with just a quick one to roll through. Yogi Berra, Yankees legend, finally passed away at 90. This man was a phenom. Are you familiar with some of his accomplishments?
Um, Believe it or not, I'm not really a baseball person. I know a little bit about Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig was an amazing person, and I know the name Yogi Berra. This is the thing. You know that you are legendary status when you have somebody like me who does not follow baseball but knows your name. So yeah,
So
I don't.
obviously he is a legend. As a player coach, or let me see what the other classification was on this. Player coach or manager. Yogi Berra appeared in 21 World Series. 21.
It's a
That
lot.
is an astonishing number. And he won 13 of them. And he did play in the Lou Gehrig era and all stuff with all the other super famous Yankees. I was honestly amazed he was still alive. He's such a big name from such a long time ago that the fact that he had made it this far was amazing to me.
Well, yeah.
But
If he
one
was
thing that I
playing
did
with
learn about him,
if he was playing with Lou Gehrig and he was playing with Babe Ruth and those names, all those guys are dead. So he outlived them all.
well, he also was known for what was referred to as yogiisms. Have you heard of that?
That sounds like some granola eating, like fucking
He
hipster
would
shit.
he would fire just off the hip, just random quotes that became like well-known sayings. And there's a lot of, I guess, really famous ones. You can observe a lot by watching.
Yeah,
Just think
that's
about it.
pretty
I mean,
profound.
it's a yogiism. It's off the, but yes, it is fairly profound once you really start processing that. Um, I really didn't say everything I said. Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't go to yours. Which is really funny when you think about that.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because he just passed away, so then we can look in the room and see how many people attended that funeral, and then you could be like, oh yeah, he must have gone to a lot of funerals. So.
and then there's 90% of it is half mental. This is a
90.
general comment on life. 90% is half mental.
Well, yeah, my brain was trying to wrap my 90% of life is half mental.
Yep.
So half of 90%.
That's a yogiism. But
Damn, Yogi Berra, God.
his two most famous ones. When you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Ah, he meant the actual fork.
I still don't understand that one, but his most famous one is "It ain't over till it's over." So
Yeah, I mean that's a classic one. It
Yeah.
ain't over till it's over. Yeah. Wow. I'm still wrapping my head around that mental 99.
uh, I would say condolences to the family, and I do mean that, but I mean he had a good life. You really don't have a reason to be sad about him passing. He lived to a great old age. He had an amazing life. He's well known. He provided for his family. I mean, if anybody
Yeah.
wanted life, it was Yogi Berra.
Not just that, but I mean, like, you had plenty of time with this guy. And obviously, when you have somebody of the caliber as Yogi Berra, who is a legend, all the time still wouldn't be enough. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to let people go. And, you lived a good life, man. I'm condolences, I guess, but I think honor. You should be honored. I feel that you're lucky that you at least got to know him. So.
Indeed. In really sad news, I think it was just coming out today. Jim Carrey's ex-girlfriend has committed suicide at the age of 30.
Yeah, and they had just reportedly broken up. So there's speculation that the two are linked. They broke up, and she couldn't handle it and killed herself.
Her name was Cathriona White. She was 30 years old. She was a looker. I'll give her that.
See, that's the opposite. You have Yogi Berra, who did so much in his life, and he lived to 90 years old. That, yes, it's sad when people go when we miss them, but he lived his life. And then you have this person that's 30 years old. Scott, that's around our age. there's so much. I personally feel like there's tons of shit that I can do in my life still. I'm pretty sure you're the same way. Like I am not dead yet. I have a lot of shit that I need to accomplish. So to be 30 years old and to lose your life like that, man, it's heartbreaking.
It is, and it says she was Irish, born and raised in Ireland. She had moved to California to become a makeup artist. She got involved with Carrie in 2012, broke up in 13, back together in May of this year, and then recently broke up again. Seems like
I have a question. Okay, this is one of those things because just thinking about that, man. Like, even I love my wife to death. Like, that's a terrible thing to say. I love my wife. Excuse me. I love my wife tremendously, more than anybody on this planet. But even if my wife had filed for divorce and decided to leave me, even if she took me to the cleaners, I don't think it would end with me committing suicide. I don't. How does one get to that point? Is the question. How does one get to that, man?
I've never been ashamed to admit it before, but now that it's like this is live and I'm about to say this, it kind of takes on a different meaning. And my first divorce was terrible. It was the worst experience of my life. The worst 2 years I've ever gone through. And I was raped for 4 years as a child, and that didn't even compare to how much of an impact my first divorce had on me. It changed everything about me. Fundamentally changed everything from the way I think to the way I talk to the way I address people. I mean, it had that much of an impact. But I had fallen so hard for this woman, and I was so in love for her, and to feel rejection on that type of level that she didn't want it anymore. She didn't want me. I wasn't good enough, especially when she left for somebody else. And it wasn't even somebody else that she ended up sticking with. It was a few people that she just kind of bounced around with. There was a few of them in there, but yeah, and that just made it that much worse. So I was at the point of suicide. I seriously considered it. I drew up a plan and everything. And I'm not entirely ashamed to admit that it's not the first time I've been there in my life. It's something that I have explored before. And when I was a teenager, I tried it. I just couldn't go through with it all the way. But to be in that position and to feel that you're worthless, you have nothing. The one person that you want more than anything in the world couldn't care less about you. It'll put you there. I could never go through with it, mainly because of my son. My son is the only reason I didn't do it. Because I spent 3 years with a working firearm and about 180 rounds of ammunition on me. I could have done it any time I wanted, but I couldn't stand the thought of my son having to grow up with that guilt, with that hanging over his head. That your dad was a pussy and he couldn't handle it. So what does that make you? That thought alone is honestly what kept me alive until I was able to pull through it. And coming out of it, I love my wife now. I love her more than I've probably loved anyone in my life, with the exception of my son and my soon-to-be-born son. And I would do anything for her, but I'll never be at that point again. I'll never be that attached to anything again. I can walk away. Like if we were to divorce today, I would be torn up. I would be devastated, but I would never let myself get that low again. At some point, I'm going to catch myself stooping into that and go, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm better without her, and move on. And that's just how it would have to be. I won't let myself get that low again.
Well, yeah, and it's because you had to initiate that resiliency in that situation. And my apologies if I opened some wounds there, man. That wasn't my intention. So.
No, that's fine. It's something that, like I said, normally I have no problem talking about it. It's just realizing that I was saying it on air is like.
You're like, oh, this is for everybody to hear.
This isn't just me among friends. This is
right.
The world.
What do you mean, man? These are all of our friends. All of you are our friends.
Intimate, personal friends that I talk to frequently.
We're coffee drinking friends now. But But yeah, man, like you had to build that resiliency, and it's not that you would never be attached to somebody again in that sort of situation, but that you have matured in your emotional state to recognize that pattern. You know what I mean? And go, oh, it does get better after that. You see what I mean? So like you were at that point where you're like, I don't think anything could get better. I should end it, and then you decided not to end it, and now it's gone. It's gotten better. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's just again because I have never been in that situation. You know, so I don't understand that sort of concept. But you know, I've had tragedy and I've had loss in my life, and but I've never looked at that as an option. Me personally, like I've never like been in that mindset that there's not another option. I've always been like, there's something else I could be doing.
But it's not even. It's not even a matter of it being the only option, that there's no other way to progress. It's that you just don't want to. You don't want to do this anymore. Sure, there were 50 other things I wanted to do. You just don't want to anymore. You know, and I think having gone through it, I'm not going to go into details here, just to kind of touch the subject. It's something I'd have to really think about and process first, but
Right.
having gone through it, the approach to stopping suicide now is wrong. It's why it's largely ineffective. I know that those methods, especially the ones that the Army is pushing now, would not have worked for me, because I am very capable of masking my emotions from everybody else when I want to. When I want to be left alone, when I don't want any sympathy, I don't want to hear any condolences or anything like that from anybody, I'm very capable of just shutting that off. So those, you know, it's a cry for help, and that shit wouldn't work for me. That would not recognize me. And I'm sure that if my best friends from that time were watching right now, they would be surprised that I actually went through that. Even though they were there with me and saw me go through everything, they would be surprised to know that I contemplated it that seriously. So, anyways, moving on, because that's a
right, man.
loaded topic.
Yeah, we really hit the emotion there. So yeah, condolences to her family. You know, even though they were broken up, condolences to Jim Carrey, because obviously he cared enough about her to be in a relationship at some point with her. So I'm sure he's just as torn up about it.
On another note,
yeah,
not to make light of the situation, Jim Carrey is like 50 years old.
Right, and she's 30.
And he's dating this 30-year-old. He broke up with her twice. What is it like to break up with somebody at 50? Because I could picture it in like the early 20s, like, hey, this isn't working out, you know, I'm gonna go. But when you're 50, what does she have to do to make it go, no? Mm-mm.
Well, not just that, man. She's around our age. She was a kid when he was playing Ace Ventura. She saw him on TV playing a jackass like Ace Ventura. And then she was like, if you were to go to her, like, you know, 10-year-old self and go, you're going to date that guy one day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it would ever register. Like, that dude's old enough to be your dad. Come on.
Well, anyways. So, in other news, condolences to her family. That is very tragic. The Hajj. Trip to the Hajj. A pillar. The Hajj is the trip to Mecca. It's one of the pillars of Islam. As a good Muslim, you have to take the trip to Mecca. You have to complete the Hajj. Isn't that like the fourth pillar? Maybe the third?
I believe so, and that's where, believe it or not, those people out there that are using it incorrectly as a racial slur, Haji or Haji is the term of endearment given to a Muslim that has completed the pilgrimage. So it's not an offensive thing to call somebody Haji. So if you're going around going, I'm going to go shoot me some Haji, you're
just going to go shoot an experienced, well-traveled Islamic man.
Yeah. But
anyways, So at the Hajj, there was, I guess they were doing some construction, possibly, but there was a crane. It was a big crane, and it fell over. And
was
the note that
probably
you
one
left
of the world's largest. Yeah, I don't know why it did that. Cut it off. It's weird, but yeah, the crane. You have to complete so many rotations around the cobble, right?
Yep.
The big black rock. And so you're doing the turns and stuff or whatever. And again, it's slow moving because of how many people are actually there. Like if you've seen a picture of the Hajj, there's millions upon millions of people there, and they're all tightly compact. And so the crane just fell down and smushed a bunch of people. So that's bad thing number one that happened at the Hajj. So you have the other. There's another thing that happened at the Hajj, sir.
The crane falling and smushing people apparently triggered a stampede.
Yes.
Which then killed an additional 700 people.
Right. Whenever you have that many people in a room, or not a room, but in a place gathering, it's never going to end well, man. It's terrible.
This is true. But statistically, 200 terrorists were killed in this stampede.
Oh.
far?
No. Oh no. Oh no. We're going to get some Resla Aslan up the ass just because of that one comment. He's going to find us out. He's going to seek us out. He's going to be like, you know.
Rizla's radar is going off at this moment. There's anti-Islam comments? Where?
You're just as bad as Sam Harris. Oh, goodness gravy. Sam Harris
that is
was
using Sam Harris's rough estimate of 20%.
Yeah. Sam Harris was also in the news. Speaking of which, I forgot
He
to put it on here,
was?
but he was in the news. He was in the news because he was speaking about Ben Carson's comments about a Muslim could never be president, sort of thing. And of course,
Did you watch that interview?
I caught bits and pieces of it, and where he was basically the commentator was calling him a bigot, and basically talking over him like most of those shows do, anyways.
It wasn't. You said commentator, so I thought you meant moderator. What really struck me was that the moderator was CNN, and we just had the CNN debate, but he was actually stopping the discussion and enforcing rules. Where was that motherfucker at the debate?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Like they're like, okay, in this particular situation, we need rules and we need civility, and then in the GOP debates, they're just kind of like, let's let crazy speak.
Yeah.
Let's just let them.
And what struck me is this is where Sam gets that kind of reputation as an asshole. That this pompous atheist jackass motherfucker, because he was actually decent. He was a decent human being. He was getting cut off. He wasn't rising to the bait. He wasn't trying to dig into the personal attacks. He would get cut off and like, are you gonna let me finish? If you would let me finish, I would answer your questions. He was still maintaining a level of respect that the other guy didn't know. But it's Harris that walks out looking like the jackass in the religious rights mentality, I guess. If that's
the thing about it is we have a problem as liberals. We've talked about this a couple of times. We have a problem as liberals. My Scooby-Doo now.
Rebels.
Rebels. So anyways, we have a problem as liberals. Like we talked about this briefly with the Sam Harris versus Ben Affleck thing that happened. Is that the moment you apply any sort of criticism, legitimate or non, against Muslims, it's bigoted, it's racist, it's insidious. I say that word right? Just terrible. Okay? But he's right. Everything that Sam Harris was saying, if you listen to it, it's valid and it's correct. He wasn't directly, and in fact, he even mentioned the role that moderate Muslims play in that particular thing with Ben Affleck, and he reiterated it in the discussion, the current one. So yeah, why is that? Why are we so? Is it because of the PC nature of our liberal society? What is it?
Well,
What is
religious
it?
people in general have always had an issue with hearing the truth supported by facts and evidence.
Right. I mean, think about it. You draw a picture of Jesus, are you going to get murdered? Probably not. I could draw a picture of Jesus doing some terrible things, not going to get murdered. I could draw a picture of Buddha doing some terrible things, probably to Jesus, and still not get murdered. Okay? You draw a picture of Muhammad, your ass is going to get shot. Just for drawing him. Not even an offensive picture, just Muhammad. It's crazy. Hello. You still there, man? Did we get cut off?
All right. Well, I don't know if you can hear me, but my desktop just blue screened. So.
There we go. Yeah, I see you. Next to some, you got good taste in marinara, sir.
Sadly, recording on this computer though is not going to grab any audio that I'm saying. All it is going to grab is what you were saying.
Oh, okay.
So we're still live. People can still hear us, but for the version that we're putting out, we might as well wrap it up because.
Okay.
I'm not going to be back anytime soon. I'm not even going to be able to get back into this.
So, ladies and gentlemen, of course, one of the things that takes place in this realm, this medium called technology, is that ever so often technical difficulties happen, and Scott got the infamous blue screen error. You can see him probably, but you cannot hear him. So that's what happened, and so we're going to cut off a little bit short. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to check us out at @polypompous.com. If you want to engage in this conversation further, go to @polypompous Twitter page. Go www.polypompous.com is the website, not @polypompous. Oh, fucked that up. If you can only hear Scott tell me how I fucked that up. But then you got the Facebook page, Pompously Political Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Again, engage with these issues. We definitely want to get some topics going. We were going to talk about Donald Trump's tax plan, but not that big of a deal. And if you were out there and you saw that blood moon, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed it like I did. So with that, ladies and
everywhere.
There was what?
Clouds.
Oh, clouds. Scott's telling us clouds. I didn't have any clouds on my end, so it was a nice, clear, beautiful sky, and I got to see it at a Styx concert. Even it was gorgeous.
You.
Yeah. With that being said, you won't be able to hear Scott say it. His line of take care and keep thinking. Yeah, take care and keep thinking. And I'm gonna say, have yourself a merry, hopefully tech problem-free week. And with that, talk to you later. Bye.
All right, I stopped the recording. I'll pull you up on Skype or something real quick.
We're still on live, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I can't make it not live. That's why I have to pull you on Skype.
Okay, cool.
All right, I'll call you in a sec.